Hello there and welcome to a tour of my mini travel sketchbook. The idea for this video was suggested by one of my longtime internet friends, Jay, and she asked if I could do a tour of this sketchbook, so I'm finally getting around to filming it. Also, as a quick side note, Jay makes some fantastic music, so if you're after some nice vibes and some new music to listen to, go and head over to her channel. I'll link it in the description. So the sketchbook in question is a Hahnemuhle A6 sized watercolor sketchbook. The first page is very interesting. It's just a completely blank page. I left it blank intentionally because, like so many other artists, when you first open a sketchbook you have a fear of just ruining the first page by screwing up a painting, so I just turn the page over and I leave the front of the sketchbook to last, purely because I want to avoid that blank canvas feeling where you've got a whole new pretty little book and you don't want to ruin the first page. So if you turn the page over, the first page is left pristine, and that's how I like it. So first page is blank, but the next page I've started to do a bit of sketching. So the idea behind this sketchbook to start off with was that I wanted to really practice like tonal values, and that's what the first few pages are. It's just me playing around with sepia coloured watercolour paint. As you can see, the date in the top right corner is the 4th of January last year, and that's because I got a watercolour book for Christmas in 2020, and in the book they were talking about the importance of just doing very loose sketches and working out tonal values of things that you're painting in real life. And I wanted to try some of those exercises, and so that's what I did on these first couple of pages. So there's just a couple of sketches of some chickens, of course, and a couple of bunnies, some trees and some plants. Very, very boring basic stuff, but it was the first exercise and it was quite fun to do, and I like how it turned out. On the second page, I tried to get a bit more Instagrammy, for want of a better word, and I thought, oh, I'm going to make this whole spread of cephalopods and it's going to look really cool. The sketches that I did, I think I was copying from a sketch on Pinterest. So they're not traced, but I was copying someone else's sketch. And I do that from time to time purely because it's a good way to learn different styles. And I'm not going to reproduce these drawings in any way as prints or anything, so I think it's fine. So once again, working on the tonal values. And then I did a couple more chickens and a tap on the page next to it. So on the next page I did a little sketch of a plane. This is actually like a pencil sharpener shaped as a plane, and I thought that would be good to try and copy. You know, it turned out okay. I'm still working on the shadows and everything. Did a horrible attempt at drawing a prop though. That's a really bad propeller, but anyway, I must have lost the will to live on that one. Next page looks like shading. I can't actually remember drawing these at all, but I must have. Not really much to comment, pretty basic. So on the 10th of January I was trying to paint a cat. I think I must have been pretty bored for this one because it didn't look like I put much effort in, and the leaf that's also on the page, it's I don't know what I was doing, but half of it's like black and then the other half's really white. So I may have been trying to play with lighting and trying to give the leaf a bit more shape through that. Obviously it didn't work out, it looks horrible, but that's what I got. So on the 11th of January I did a couple of sketches of some plants in my backyard, a nice little conifer in a pot that looks okay actually, and just like a lion that sits on my desk as well. And this is the first proper building that I tried to sketch on the 12th of January. It was a photo taken from real life and I was just working on the shadows once again. 13th of January, I think that's just a Pinterest picture that I found, and I tried to sketch some people. As you can see, I'm really bad at people, and I would like to work a lot more on how I paint and draw people. But yeah, I don't really know what I was going for in this one. Okay, so the 24th of January, we're trying to get a bit more detailed apparently, and we've taken up the whole page. So this was just a view from where I was sitting at home, and there was once this nice candle that was like suspended in like a little hanging house thing, and I thought I'd paint it, and in the background you've got just trees. So I was just trying to play around again with tonal values, and in a way I'm glad that I did paint this because later on last year, like, the candle got really mouldy in there, which was really weird. It was outside and the housing that it was in started to get a bit rusty, so had to throw it away, but I really like the design, so I'm glad I sort of preserved its memory in this painting. And then over the page I did a bit of a painting of Hilltop Farm in England. I didn't go to England during this time, I just found a picture on the internet. I was just experimenting again with houses, and I think from memory I was trying to play around with painting windows and trying to work the style where you paint each window pane in a different fashion so that they don't all look the same. And then I think I was playing around with like using minimal tiling on the roof as well. So just a hint of tiles, but not the whole shebang. 1st of February, over the page. This was a sketch that I was planning for a bigger picture, but I just never ended up painting. It's meant to be a painting from his Dark Materials. It's Lyra on the polar bear, who I've just forgotten the name of, and I was going to try and make it look very arctic and blue and beautiful, but I just never ever carried on with that painting, so there you go. Alright, 2nd of February. This was a big one because last year I decided I really wanted to do a lot more outdoor painting, so I finally actually went outdoors away from my house into the big wide world and sat down and did a bit of painting in plein air. So this was just from a local park. There's just a little pigeon or bird or seagull, I think it's a pigeon, and just a park bench with a tree behind it. So on the 2nd of February I was finally starting to use this book as not just a practice book, but has a bit of a travel one as well, which is what I wanted it to be from the start. Across the page on the next day I went to the park again, it seems, and I did another rough sketch of a water fountain, again still playing with this sepia toned watercolour, trying to get a bit of detail but also trying to keep it very loose. And that's the other thing about this sketchbook as well. I consciously went into it not wanting to use pencil as the initial sketch, but just go straight in with pen and force myself to become a bit relaxed and a bit more easy when it comes to doing these rough sketches. Not take myself too seriously, basically. And you know, you can tell there's a bit of lack of confidence here, but also I feel like I'm starting to develop my style and a bit more confidence with the pen. We've jumped forward a few days. The next page is the 17th of February, but I'm in a park once again and I'm just doing more sketches, and I remember being really proud of that lamppost because it was just so precise and so fine. So now we've got a sketch of a statue, once again painted in plein air, and as for the plant against a brick wall, I think that may have been done at home. I think it could be just a photo from Pinterest, but I liked the shading or something in it, so I wanted to try and replicate that. Then on the 20th of February we've got a tree. I think I've said it many times, but I suffer with painting trees, so this was me trying to practice a bit more. I've got another painting of Shaftesbury. Ages before this I did a painting of Shaftesbury, but I wanted to return to it and try and make it a bit more detailed, and even though there's like no colour in this, if you compare the two paintings, there is a lot of progress that has been made over that time. On the next page, holy crap, there's colour. Obviously I got bored with the sepia. It does get very samey after a while, so I wanted to throw in some greens, and that I did. So these sketches were probably sketches of someone else's paintings of trees, but I'm just trying to replicate it so I can learn how to paint a goddamn tree. And to be honest, the one in the top right is one of my favourite trees to date, even though it's not an original design. If I could work on incorporating some of the aspects of it in my own paintings, I'd be a very happy Anna. You can also see between these two pages on the left hand side it was February, and then suddenly we jumped to June. Obviously I fell out of love with this little sketchbook for a bit, but I'm glad I picked it up and started actually using it just to try and develop my practice a bit. So on the 6th of July, this was just another really nice drawing that I found on Pinterest, of just this lady holding a bunch of apples being surrounded by rabbits, and I went sepia again because I must have been trying to bring back that practice of tonal values. For this one, it was smack bang in the middle of winter. It was probably a really cold and horrible evening, and I was just really yearning for that classic summer evening where it's like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock and the sun's still up and it's just warm and you can hear the birds tweeting and everything, and I just wanted to do a bit of a sketch to take me back to those sorts of times. Not that when I go outside in the summer I'm just surrounded by rabbits like after apples from a tree. It just brought back that nostalgic feeling, so that's why I painted that one. The 6th of July also I did a very, very light sketch of just a guy at a piano. This is also taken from a painting on Pinterest. It's a painting that I've always loved to look at, and I wanted to try and work and recreate it to learn from it, but I only got so far as to doing the drawing. But this sketch in particular will have a reprise later on in the sketchbook, so look forward to that. On the next page you've got a weird sleazy looking bear. I don't know what happened with his eyes, but he doesn't look like he's up to any good. And then there's a rabbit underneath a mushroom as well. A couple months back as well, I was playing around with gouache and I was just trying to find a blank page on here, and I just threw some gouache on this page. So that colour wasn't originally there when I painted it. It was just a blank page that I needed a couple months ago. Then we've got two paintings on the next page. I think the girl, it was sketched from a drawing that was made back in the 60s of, like, you know, this dress that you can buy, like a fashion sort of drawing. I was just taken up by that drawing and I wanted to paint it myself. And then you've got this crazy looking duck on the other side. Once again, not an original painting. And I'm hoping that it's not overly annoying that a lot of these paintings aren't original. It's just because this sketchbook was both a let's go and paint outside sketchbook as well as a I need to practice this skill sketchbook. So that's why you've got a bit of a mismatch of originals and non-originals. Having said that, on the next page we do have originals. So I was practicing flowers and I did a couple of different daffodils. I think I did this as sort of more of an Instagram type post. I can't remember if I posted it or not, but it was just like, oh look, it's a pretty spread of flowers. So there we go, we've got a few different daffodil types there. And then on the next page I did a sketch of the front cover of Taylor Swift's Folklore album. And that's because I was obsessed with it at this point. And so I wanted to do a painting of it, and then eventually this was meant to be the foundation to a bigger painting of the album cover, which I never got around to doing. Maybe one day I will. And then if you can see, there's like a slight note there that says start lights and then get dark, because I kept going into paintings with too dark of colours and then regretting it because I wanted it to be lighter. So it was a note to self, actually think about things before you start painting. Over on the next page, this is the painting that I painted for a video that I made last year where I was sketching outside. I'll put a link in the top right for that video now, but yeah, it's just a sketch from outside. An original painting though, so you know, that's something. On the next page, once again, we've skipped forward from August to December. It happens. It's not like I stopped painting completely during this time, it's just that I was using other sketchbooks. But it's just a really terrible sketch of a tree or a tree branch, no idea. And then next to that there's also a really lowly saturated lavender that I had sitting in a vase next to my window, and so I sketched it. So now on the next page we've got a little daisy that I painted on the 18th of December, and then there's also a kookaburra, which I would have just come back to this page just trying to find a little piece of blank page to do the kookaburra sketch on. And on the next page I once again did a bit of sketching in public, and this is a really bad just footpath thing. I remember when I was doing this I was just like not comfortable in where I was sitting. It's like I'd sat down quite far away from everybody because I wasn't feeling that confident, and I didn't want anyone coming up and saying, oh, what are you drawing? You know how you sort of get that feeling if you do plein air sketching, you don't want to be disturbed really. So I sat far away from everybody in a park, but then there was nothing decent to sketch, so I tried to do like a footpath, but I just wasn't feeling the vibes, and it was just a complete disaster. And I went out specially to do a sketch as well, so I was feeling really down when I was painting that, and that's probably why I painted like a little tiddly bird, because I felt like, oh, I've gotten nothing out of this, let me just paint like an attempt at a bird. So this page was just like disaster mode painting. But over the other side I got a simple but another one of my paintings that I do like to look at sometimes, and it was of a toilet block in that same park. But after the previous page I walked away and I was feeling a bit down. I was like, oh, I may as well go home. And then I saw this really nice yellow door and I was like, okay, I could just sit down and just try and sketch it. Like, there's no pressure here, let's just do a bit of a sketch. And people were around, but I was like, I don't care. No one's going to come up to me and ask me what I'm doing anyway. So I sat down and I did this rough sketch, and you know when you slowly start getting into painting and you're like, yes, I can keep going, oh, this is working out really well, let's just keep trying with this one. I sat there for a good 45 minutes, an hour or so, and I sketched that one out, and I was so happy with how it turned out at the end. And I even posted a picture of it on Instagram. I was like thrilled with it. And this page of the sketchbook, I don't want to say it was a turning point, but it was a turning point in that I realised this is what I want this book to be. I want it to be like a travel sketchbook. I know I'm doing some practicing stuff in it, but I want it to be sort of a memory thing. and I want my paintings to take up the whole page and it to be just really light and easy and nice. Something along those lines just clicked with me, and so this page is the resemblance of what the rest of the sketchbook sort of is, more or less. That felt like a bit of a rant for this page, but anyway, so we move on to the next page and I'm going in with the same thoughts. I'm thinking, yes, I'm going to do some more park sketching. I found like some war memorial and it's got a cannon on it. I'm going to paint it. It's going to look great. And so I sat down. There were people around, but it's okay. I'm in the zone. And then it started raining and I felt rushed and everything just started to go wrong at once. And so I came out with this really little crappy attempt at a cannon. But anyway, you win some, you lose some. Over on the next page I did a video for this one. It's my Norwegian house. So this was sketched from a photograph. I didn't spontaneously go to Norway or anything, but I liked how this one turned out and I put a good amount of time into it, and I even started to use a bit of coloured pencils in this to add some more texture to it. So yeah, if you want to see more of the process for this one, I will link the video in the top right. Then on the next page, that previous sketch for the man at the piano came back, and I tried to use really dark pigmented watercolours for this one. I just wanted to try and get those same vibes that I love from the original painting out in this one. So just a lot of experimenting with how watercolour moves, and how much water to use, when to use it, everything like that, just to try and learn how to get a bit more realism out of my paintings. So yeah, I mean, I'm not overly fond with this painting, but it was an exercise. And then we're back again with Anna is travelling with her sketchbook and she's painting things. And this one was a really light sketch of Sandy Bay in Tasmania. So this one was challenging in the way that there were a lot of houses that I was looking at. And of course I didn't want to sit down and sketch each one individually, but I wanted to try and show the impression that there are a lot of houses. And I did a 50% job on that. There's probably double or triple the amount of houses in real life than what you can see in this painting. But still, the general style of it, it's quite light and fun, very cartoonish, but something that I do like and that I'd be happy to have turned into a print or published or anything like that. And then on that same day I went for a bit more of a walk and just found a side of a house that I wanted to paint. I was focusing mostly on its brickwork along the side, where it has just big designer bricks going down the side of the wall. I need to learn more architectural terms if I'm going to start painting architecturally, but anyway, that's another story. Just a little snapshot of something, and I really like how that turned out. And then on the other side of the page I've done a painting of a jetty in Hobart, and I really like how this turned out. This is one of my favourite paintings of all time that I've done, and I didn't intend it to be that way when I first went into it, but it turned out really well, and this is something that I should actually turn into a print. I'm happy with it, but it's got all the right details that I wanted, all the right shadings, and it's got the right colours and amount of colours used as well. It doesn't feel like it's too dark, but it also doesn't feel like it's too light, and I'm even happy with how the water turned out too. So this one's just like a work of art. I'm so incredibly proud of this painting. Then I just did a little sketch of a bunny again in the top left corner, very reminiscent to what I was painting at the start of this sketchbook. And I also tried to paint a plant. I'm ridiculously bad at plants, but there it is. And then finally on the next page, on the 7th of May, I was just practicing with drawing a bit of a detailed acorn. It's nothing special, it's just a bit of practice that I was doing and experimenting. And then that's basically it for this sketchbook. There are a couple more pages left, but they are currently just behind the scenes experimenting for a commission that I'm currently working on. So I'm not going to show them at all, but that is basically the end of my A6 sketchbook. There's like only 3 other pages left on it. And then last week I went and bought a new travel and experimentation sketchbook, and I've decided to go up a size to A5. It's a Hahnemuhle one again, so it's completely identical to the sketchbook that I use for painting houses and buildings, but this new one's just going to be like this old one that I just showed you, where it's just very loose and very experimentational. And the reason I went for a bigger size is because although this little one's really great for a pocket sketchbook, sometimes it does just feel a bit too little and a bit too restrictive, and I don't want to get used to painting really small because, like I was talking about in my previous video, it gets really hard to paint larger paintings because you get very comfortable with painting small. That's why I've jumped up to A5, so there's a bit more space. But this little sketchbook has a big place in my heart. It's gone on a few adventures now, and I've learned a lot from just mucking around in it. So that's that. Whew, this is a long video. I think I've been talking for about 40 minutes now, so God knows how long the video is going to end up being. But thanks again to Jay for suggesting the video, and thank you so much for watching it if you have gotten this far. I hope that some of it was interesting. And if you have any videos that you want to see me make, please feel free to suggest them. They're always welcome. I may not get around to filming them next week, but I'll get there eventually. And apart from that, I will see you again in another video. Hope you have a lovely day, and goodbye for now.